Welcome to the program. My name is Vince Nigro. On Insights today, we're going to be talking about longevity. Dr. Carlo Ammendolia is with us. He'll describe about longevity, what it's going to take to live longer, how you can find that edge. Longevity, today on the program. Dr. Ammendolia, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me, Vince.
You know, in the past year or so, we've covered a great many topics and how to stretch and mobility, winter, summer. We seem like we've covered all the seasons, but at the end of the day, the topic I want to talk about today is longevity, and whether you're young, old, middle-aged, especially as we get older in our category, the longevity piece is more and more relevant, whether it's in the forefront of your mind and the back of your mind. And we've talked a little bit about, we're always looking for the edge, where I'm always looking for the edge, whether it's keeping an open mind to a particular stretch or a particular exercise or a diet or creams or the plunging. I mean, I can go on and on. You know,
Phases, so many things happen. Yeah,
you're sure. And go. And my mother always used to say to me, "You got to know your own body." And what she meant to say, and I didn't hit me until years ago, where if cucumbers are something that don't sell with you, don't eat cucumbers. You know, if this, you got to listen to your own body. A doctor or whatever can tell you what to do, what not to do. So that has always resonated with me. Kind of know your lane and stay within your lane. And I just want to touch on the whole picture of longevity. And you see all kinds of people, right, young, middle-aged, whatever. If you had to just put on some key points in terms of longevity, what would you recommend? What would be some of the factors you would talk about on the longevity side?
Yeah, well, it's a great topic, and there are many factors,
of course,
that come into play with longevity. But when I think of longevity, I also think not only how long and hopefully long life, but also quality life. So if I had the choice between living a relatively short life but having good quality life, or living a long life but being sick and ill in and out of the hospital, I'd rather not have that. So when we look at longevity, we really want to use that phrase to not only mean length of life, but also good quality life. And I think that's what we all strive for, is good, high quality life. Because when you interview or when you ask older people who are close to their death, and ask them, what is it that they fear most? They fear most the loss of independence, for example, the ability to look after themselves or having good quality life. And so when we look at longevity, we really want to be cognizant of the fact that we're really looking not only on the duration of life, but also making sure they're good quality life. And there's many, many factors that impact both longevity and quality of life. But one of the things that you don't have much control over, and that is your genetics. About 25%.
Which is a big factor.
Sorry?
Which is a decent factor.
A very, very important factor. About 25% of the determinants of longevity come from your genetics. So if your parents were healthy and lived a long life, then there's a good chance that you may have that same opportunity. And so that's one thing you have little control over. Another factor that's still in the area of genetics is called epigenetics. And that refers to the environment by which your genes will or will not be expressed. And so that we have some control over, because that also impacts, sun exposure, too much sun exposure, exposures to toxins, and exposure to environmental hazards that might impact the expression of genes, and then dietary factors as well. So epigenetics can also be a very important factor in longevity, both in the positive sense, but also in the negative sense.
Right. I've talked about it recently with some of our editorial people, and some of the phrases have come up that probably today someone has been born that will be the first 150-year-old person as things change. And there's different doctors that have talked about longevity and that kind of stuff. They're in different fads. Dr. Sinclair, there's a guy called Dr. Sinclair. and he's a Harvard grad, and he an expert in longevity. And there's different components of it, but the one thing that he always goes back to is fasting. And he said, as you get older, you need less food. And the diet piece, genetic or no genetic, obviously, if you're more susceptible to cholesterol, so I mean, you got to watch all those markers. But the fasting piece, where do you see that fit into?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that dietary factors play a big role in longevity. For example, we can look at the Mediterranean diet, for example, which appears to be a diet that seems to promote longevity. And then to your point around fasting, we know that low-calorie diets are also a factor in longevity. So, and low-calorie diets and fasting is in that category. Intermittent fasting is in that category. So we still need a lot more data. We don't have a lot of data in that area, but we do know that but less calories are actually are a factor in promoting longevity. When you having too many calories, especially the bad calories, then this will also impact your longevity. But fasting, there's something that happens with the fasting that impacts your metabolism in such a way that actually controls better sugar levels and controls better oxygen levels to the brain. So there are a lot of factors that impact the body's functions that are promoted with intermittent fasting.
So, doctor, you are at a stage where you're very active. You still work pretty much full time. You do research. You're very active. Diet wise, tell us a little bit what you do. What is your in the course of the day? Give us just a ballpark idea of your diet.
Yeah. So my diet really starts in the morning, and I have basically about 5 fruits in the morning. I'll have a banana, an orange, a pear, or peach.
Together or spaced out?
No, all together. That would be my breakfast, if you will.
And do you put it in a blender and do it, or you actually physically just eat the banana, the apple?
The raw fruit. And then I have a glass of water. And that's how I start my day. So basically fruit. No carbohydrates other than the carbohydrates that you get in the fruits. No simple carbohydrates like a cake or a muffin or anything. I don't do that at all. And I'll have the glass of water. And then at lunchtime, I will have, usually my lunch is usually around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, based on my schedule. And then I'll have usually a combination of some sort of meat, whether it be veal, protein, and then with some carbohydrates, but on the complex form. And then I will have also some fruit again, and then water again. And then I'll have a dinner, and dinner, it just depends, but usually lots of olive oil-based salads, for example, lots of vegetables like zucchini and eggplant, grilled or baked as opposed to fried. And then I will have, I don't generally have a lot in terms of desserts, in terms of cakes or pastries on occasion, but I try to minimize that.
You'll have a Spumoni ice cream once in a while.
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
Do you have a cutoff? Obviously, you have breakfast, so it sounds like you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're not one of these one meal a day.
No.
What they call the old man, 1 meal a day. Do you have a cutoff, though, in terms of the evening?
Great point. Yeah, so basically after my dinner, so usually my dinner is around 7 o'clock. And then once I've had my dinner, I tend not to have anything after that other than water. I'm a big water drinker. I drink a lot of water throughout the day. And I think it's important to keep hydrated, particularly with hot weathers. But even generally, hydration is very, very important. And I don't have sugar drinks. I don't have any colas, pops, juices. I don't drink. Occasionally I'll have some alcohol, but we know that alcohol now is not a very important thing for longevity. Actually, it's considered to be something that will prevent you from having good quality of life. So alcohol, less is more. I will have the occasional beer and glass of wine, but I would say probably 1 or 2 glasses a week.
Okay. I just want to stay with the internal stuff before we get to the external stuff of longevity. obviously, you talk about the Mediterranean diet and things of that nature with the olive oils and that kind of stuff. That's what we'll talk about. The supplement world that people talk about supplementing, or Dr. Sinclair talks about metformin, and a lot of the people taking metformin and taking other types of supplements or drugs to keep you going. A lot of the people are doing the hormonal injections to keep their testosterone and things of that nature going. Where is the supplement level? Where do you see that? And do you take a multiple vitamin or vitamins?
No, I don't take any multivitamins. I don't take any. I don't take any medication whatsoever. I'm healthy. I'm very lucky. I don't have any blood pressure histories, no cholesterol issues. I don't take any medication at all. The data is not very supportive yet around those kinds of metformin and these supplements that are going to be effective in prolonging your life. Now, on the other hand, if you have issues around sugar levels in your blood, or you're not getting enough protein for getting a protein shake, then these proteins are important if you don't get it in your diet, right? So
you're basically saying that if you eat properly and you eat the certain right oils and the proper foods and the timing wise, you don't need any of the supplements.
That's right. So more and more data. You talk to the experts around health and longevity, and most of them will tell you that you don't need to add supplementation to your diet, providing you're eating a well-balanced foods and you're getting those nutritions and right from the source, as opposed to through the pills and through other testosterone. There's a fad right now about testosterone in men. Again, I don't think the data supports in the area of longevity. And so, again, we're always looking for that quick fix, and we're looking for the edge. But sometimes the edge comes from, doing things that take a little extra work and require you to do something physically and changing things, as opposed to taking a pill or getting an injection like a testosterone injection. Physical exercise, another really important factor in longevity, but it requires you to work. You need to get 30 minutes, 150 minutes, 5 days a week, or that's 30 minutes a day for 5 days of the week of moderate exercise. Again, that's been shown to improve your longevity
for sure,
and improve your quality of life. We talked about diet.
Yes.
And then we need to talk about the mental.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the mental as our last piece. So we talked about the whole nutritional piece. The skin in terms of molds, exposure to sun, exposure to cold. Talk a little bit about that aspect, because a lot of people, and I've known a lot of people that have done the tanning beds and whatever, and later on in life you can see it catches up to them.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation around the whole skin?
Yeah, I think you have to stay away from excessive exposure to the sunlight. A little bit of sun is okay. Sunscreen, hat, sunglasses, really important, because we do know that the skin ages quicker when there's too much sunlight, loses collagen. But even then, you increase your risk of melanoma, right? Cancers of the skin.
Of course.
And high risk, people that spend more time under the sun are a higher risk for these types of skin cancers, which will reduce your quality of life and your longevity for sure. So again, sun exposure is important. You need the vitamin D, you need the sunlight for bone health, but you don't need to be under the sun for long periods of time.
And the final piece I want to talk about in longevity stuff, and there's different other areas, is the mental piece. I know you're an avid cyclist, dancer, you do a lot of stuff. And aside from the benefits that you get keeping active and keeping your heart pumping, whatever else, how much part does that play in terms of the longer term longevity?
Oh, absolutely. It makes a huge difference. Cognitively and emotional factors play a huge role in good quality life, long life and quality life. And we know that to be a factor. And so how do you mitigate negative mental health and negative cognitive factors? We know that exercise does. Exercise reduces your risk of depression, and reduces your risk of anxiety. And then we know that cognitive functions are really improved upon when you're physically active. And then not only exercising the body, but you need to exercise the brain. And that is keeping yourself active and trying to experiment and trying new things, new dances, new puzzles, new experiences, which will help to keep the brain active and minimize its deterioration. So seeing new things, trying new things, new movies, new theater, new experiences. And another factor that we haven't talked about is the importance of engagement, social engagement, the opposite of isolation. As we get older, we tend to be more introvert. We tend to be less interactive, and we know that's another factor for both longevity and quality, is to keep engaged with your family, engage with your friends, engage with your community, along with physical exercise, along with good diet. And with the genetics, again, you don't have any control, but you may have some control indirectly by staying away from toxins like things you eat. The sun is a toxin. When if you do exposure, the skin can be negatively impacted and could cause things like melanoma and other conditions that may impact your quality and your longevity.
Right. So obviously everybody wants to live for a long time, but as you said, it's quality. You want to have quality years. Yeah. And whether you're watching the program and you're young, middle-aged, whatever, it's always becoming proactive and knowing your body and your system, and not getting caught up on a lot of fads. So, obviously there are warning signs if you feel your body get checked out and those sorts of things. But combining, there's no one answer to the longevity piece.
No.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's a series of things, physical, mental, and external in terms of your skin and whatever else. And just in closing, you talked about all these different things, and you are what you preach. Like I've seen you. You eat that particular food. You do like you just told me you cycled for 5.5 hours this past weekend. Like, I mean, I can't even think about it, but 5.5 hours, that's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But it didn't happen overnight. You built it over time.
Yeah.
You probably started with 15 minutes and now you're to 5.5 hours. So you built it up over time. Like everything else, gradual is better than going out there and hurting yourself because, whether you're eating something different or taking a different supplement, you really need to research how it's going to affect you individually.
Here, and the last thing I could say about this is really integrating all those important factors we talked about into your daily routine. Right. So it becomes the routine. Right. You brush your teeth every day. Do you think about it? No, you do it as a normal part of your routine. Well, eating properly, getting exercise, also learning to think differently. Think positively. We didn't talk a lot about that, but your mental, what you think about, how you think and what you think about impacts your quality of life and your health. Right. And so turning it to the right station, meaning like if you're thinking negative thoughts and you're having thoughts where, the world is against you, negative things are not going right, then you're not going to move forward in your health because you're not in the right straight frame of mind.
Right.
So positive thinking and taking control of your health by maintaining routines that are positive, both in terms of physical and the mental, and then you got a higher likelihood of having not only a long life, but good quality life.
Thanks for sharing those thoughts with us. And in the next 6 to 7 months, we're going to probably concentrate on longevity piece, a little more breaking down, taking some of these areas. We kind of just panned over it, but as you break it down, there's a lot of areas that I think we need to educate folks further, and looking forward to spending some time with you on the longevity piece. Aside from the other things that you do well, the longevity piece really it's all kind of together, and it's all related. So thanks for being on the program.
It's been a pleasure. That's a great topic, and I think your viewers will really appreciate some of the things we'll be able to talk through, so they can take on some practical strategies and make a difference in their life.
Right. And you've incentivized me for me to
build up to the 5.5-hour bike ride. I'll start with 15 minutes, 20. I do indoor cycle. Cycling outside, again, is another piece we'll talk about in the future. Two different breeds.
Yeah, two different things for sure. We could talk about. There's lots of tips we can provide.
Right. So you're gonna help us get the edge.
Absolutely.
All right, Doctor. Thanks for being on the program, and we'll.
It's been a pleasure as usual. Thanks very much for having me.
All right, cool.